white Corvettes, mellow yellow, and roller skates. Seems like an odd combination, but those are the key ingredients of one of my earliest childhood memories. So earlier this week would have been my Aunt Linda's 74th birthday. And I was reminded of that because this early childhood memory is all about her. So she lived at home with my grandparents, my grandma and grandpa Elliot, until I was 5, and she married my Uncle Bob. And she drove a white Corvette with T-tops. She worked in the advertising industry, and one of her clients was Mellow Yellow. And I remember being at my grandparents' house out on the sidewalk, and her white Corvette was parked right out in front of the house in the street. And she had these mellow yellow roller skates. They were kind of that brown, suede-y material with the mellow yellow logo. And she was trying to show me how roller skating worked. And I think I was probably, 4 at the time. And of course, I thought she was a superhero and the coolest person that could ever. There was nobody compared to her in my eyes as a 4-year-old. Anyway, that is one of my earliest childhood memories. And then I was thinking about wow, in the advertising industry, and she kind of shifted from working from an agency into the media side of things. But she had so much branded swag. They had beach towels with network logos, and she had these really cool beach chairs that we used to carry around all the time. But anyway, a lot of my early childhood memories are wrapped up in my Aunt Linda, and also at my grandma and grandpa Elliott's house on Keppen Street in Allen Park, Michigan. And I think that everyone in that side of the family that's old enough to at least remember being there, that's probably where a lot of their core memories are as well. Welcome to Becoming Chicken Pop, a podcast about our family, past and present, or our family in the future.
We discuss family, marriage, faith, and all the things that made us Chicken Pop.
I'm having so much fun doing this podcast, Tim. I don't know about you, but it's brought up a lot of things for me, but I find myself really looking forward to Saturday mornings when we record.
I do too once we get here. There's a little hesitation in the middle of the week sometimes when we're trying to figure out what's going to happen. But then we realize we're just off on tangents anyway. We could Phil and I were talking to each other anytime, but trying to reel that in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But here we are at episode 10.
Episode 10.
If all goes according to plan, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're aiming to drop this episode Thanksgiving 2024.
You're really messing with the organization in my brain, you know.
Oh, I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. It's fine. I got you.
I know. But we just got over Halloween. But this is going to drop. I guess I don't need to worry about that.
Nah.
So your intro is pretty fun. And number one, I remember being very jealous of all that logo gear that your aunt and uncle had.
Yeah.
As a kid in advertising that met you in college.
Yeah.
Not that it had a ton to do with my advertising, but
yeah,
it's just
it was a cool thing.
I've just always loved logos on anything. So
can I tell you some of my other favorite swag?
Sure.
One of my other favorite things was my Uncle Bob. So he also had a career in advertising. It's how he and my Aunt Linda met. And I'm trying to remember if it was my freshman year or sophomore year of high school, going to the Sadie Hawkins dance. And my Uncle Bob scored us some MTV jackets. Yes, we had these black jackets with a big MTV logo across the back, huge. It was the coolest thing ever.
That was pretty good back then.
And the thing about Sadie Hawkins at my school was the girls asked the boys. That's kind of the whole gist of Sadie Hawkins. But everybody wore matching flannel shirts. So each couple went out and bought matching flannel shirts. So we had the matching flannel shirts and the MTV jackets. I mean, that was pretty amazing.
You're about to make me bust out into the Relient K song, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
About Sadie Hawkins dance. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So the memory you brought up, that's certainly not your earliest childhood memory, right?
It's definitely one of them. I'm not sure, like when I think about my childhood memories, it's hard for me to like place them in time or space, which one came first, unless there's a specific event. Like I remember the day my sister was born, so I know I can place that in time, but I think other things, they're not necessarily centered around a specific date, so it's hard for me to remember exactly.
Yeah, and
what might be the earliest.
Mean much to us,
right?
Back then,
as a kid, yeah. Unless it was a holiday or a birthday, like days didn't really matter.
Well, we were kind of having this discussion the other day about Miles.
Yeah.
And I may have brought this up already, but the fact that he's going to be able to watch his entire childhood through video if he wants to.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about if we remembered ourselves in video. But Miles will have virtually everything documented from birth.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that will like click in his mind as childhood memories just because it's visual.
Because he's seen
in front of him.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have.
Right.
So, but it made me start thinking of some of my earliest childhood memories.
Yeah.
Which are very weird.
let me hear one.
Like I told you, I don't remember the first house that I was ever in as a child. So the first duplex we were in the Lansing area is where I start to remember some things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, super weird. I remember I think it was one of my birthday parties at that house, which I don't remember much of except sort of the living room and the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing with Play-Doh at the table. And my grandpa had one of the little wood rollers that he clunked me on the head with. And I remember it hurting so bad. And
it must have been Grandpa Bestervelt that
Grandpa
did that.
Bestervelt.
Yeah,
it
for
absolutely
sure.
was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's such a dumb thing, but I can go right back to it and remember that. The other weird one from there is this kid who had been dubbed Bad Chad.
Bad Chad.
Who would always come to our screen door and push his snotty nose up against it and try to look into our house.
Uh-huh.
And then ask if somebody could come out to play. I don't know if he was my age or more towards Pete and Kath's age. I don't remember who he wanted to play with, but I remember the snotty nose up against
the screen
by Bad Chad.
Wow.
So
Bad Chad, that's a great nickname.
It was pretty good. Not one Shelby could use at school anymore, but we got to use it informally.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? You were talking about your Grandpa Bestervelt, and I just had this flash that it's so weird. I knew all 4 of your grandparents. How often does that happen anymore? I knew all 4 of your grandparents, and you only knew 1 of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're only a year older than me. But I knew all of your grandparents, and you only knew 1 of mine. And even Shelby and Emily. I mean, Shelby knew 3 of our boys' grandparents. We'd already lost your mom. And M met my dad. So she knew 2, but then we lost my dad not long after Toby and Em were together.
Especially for me, almost being a generation farther back
than Pete and Kath, you mean? Yeah.
So they did live pretty ripe old ages.
Well, they all hit the age of 80.
Mm-hmm.
All 4 of your grandparents.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Your grandma died at the age of 80. But I was at her 80th birthday.
That's interesting. And one of the key factors to this is how I didn't know any of yours.
Yeah.
Key factors of this podcast.
You knew my Grandma Gilbert.
I knew your Grandma Gilbert, but didn't know any others. And that was a big talking point for you about wishing me new grandparents.
Yeah.
I know we covered this a lot in the first episode, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't hurt to
check
back on some of those reasons.
So while we're on this little tangent, one other thing that I want to say that I think is so interesting that we identified like right away is how similar your grandma Bestervelt and my grandma Gilbert were.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like from the way that they dressed, they kept their house, the way that they talked, their values, their like they could have swapped places. I mean, it could have been a Freaky Friday thing and nobody would have known how similar. They had never met. They grew up in different parts of the state, but they were from that same generation where they held on to like the ideals and the values of the time that they grew up in, and the way that they embodied those. It's really remarkable to think about how similar they were.
You know what's crazy though? Your grandparents were from Battle Creek.
I know those grandparents are from Detroit.
Yeah. That right there blows my mind. I don't know if we have the picture, but I have the mental picture for sure of the two of them sitting next to each other on a couch somewhere.
Yeah.
Same hairdo.
Same
glasses.
Yep.
Hands folded on their lap, probably. Feet
Yep.
crossed the same way. And it was just like twins.
So much,
It's
though.
weird.
Yeah. I also have this picture of them sitting on a pew the day we got married, and it was before the wedding, before people really started to get there, and they were sitting kind of out by the coat racks together. There were a couple pews just for people to sit and put their coats on or whatever, and they were sitting next to each other there, and I was kind of like walking down to take some pictures or something, and the two of them just sitting there smiling and just taking the day in. And
that's probably the mental picture I have.
It
right
probably
there.
is, yeah.
Probably other times,
Yeah.
but that's probably one of them.
Yeah. Super cool. Yeah, these early childhood memories, they really start to bring things up, right? Like, so as you're thinking about these memories and we're thinking about our family history, like, I think it's so important to take time in your lives. Don't wait to get to be our age. Like, spend some time every now and then reminiscing with your significant other, with your family, because one memory triggers 10 and it just creates like, I don't know. I think there's a cortisol release. There's like endorphins. There's, it brings up all the feels. And, in a world where I think it's really easy to feel disconnected sometimes, this is how you bring that feeling of connection back together. You've gotta spend time thinking about like your shared experiences and the meaning behind relationships. And yeah.
And probably the more we talk about this stuff leads to the reason why I can't believe you weren't around forever.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So, but there was 20 years in there where we didn't know each other, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I also just want to say, I know heading into the holiday season is a really, really difficult time for a lot of people. And I hope that as you approach this season, you can think back to these memories with the warmth and the fondness, and you get all the good feelings. I know sadness sometimes sits alongside that, but, I hope that all of the good memories bring you comfort. So, as we're recording this, we just had Halloween 10 days ago.
Which doesn't mean much to us at all until Miles came around.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it was big for our kids.
Yes.
But then a big lag. But now that Miles is all into it as Chase on the Case, Paw Patrol.
That's right.
Adorable
Cutest little Chase on
kid.
the Case ever. Mm-hmm. And Zach and Shelby are so kind. They invited us to follow them around trick-or-treating, and Tobes and Em came. And it was a beautiful night in Michigan. It didn't snow on Halloween. Didn't have to wear winter jackets. It wasn't raining. It was like the perfect Halloween night. And I can only remember a handful of times in my life that Halloween has been that nice.
Mm-hmm. I think my only memories of taking our boys trick-or-treating was sleet, rain, cold.
Yeah.
Just awful.
Yeah.
I hope they have better memories of it than we do.
Well, they probably do.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of Halloween, I had this thought as we were cruising around the neighborhood and Miles was collecting odd candy and everything.
Yeah.
I had this thought, you know what? There are so many things in his bag, candy stuff, that I don't think about 364 days of the year
Mm-hmm.
until that day.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, these are pretty good.
Yeah.
Or these aren't that great, but I'm going to eat like 5 of them
Mm-hmm.
because here they are.
Yeah.
So I actually had you sort of think of that,
Yes.
of what the top 5 of those would be for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say mine first because I think you went a little more into your childhood.
Yeah.
But I was talking legitimately. They're still around, but I
Okay.
don't think about them 364 days of the year.
Yeah.
But on Halloween, I think of Three Musketeers bars,
Uh-huh.
Milky Way, Jolly Ranchers, Tootsie Roll, which I would never choose to eat just
Any
by
other,
choice
yeah.
any other time.
Yeah.
And candy corn, which are everywhere, but I don't think I would. You know what? That's one of those things you're like, I'll try one. Waxy. And then you end up eating 20 of them.
I know.
And you
I
don't know
like
why.
candy corn. I'm one
Do
of
you
those
really?
odd people. I do. And I like candy corn and M&Ms mixed together. It's actually something I got from my Aunt Linda. Candy corns and M&Ms, and you mix them together. It's delightful.
Well, obviously, a lot of people must like them.
Yeah.
They're still around.
Yeah.
But let's hear your top 5.
All right. So the things that these are the things that I looked forward to the most in getting, like, going through my Halloween loot at the end of the night. Mary Jane's.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, they're very similar to Bits of Honey. So like that sticky, sweet kind of toffee. Bits of Honey were kind of like a long, skinny rectangle, kind of like the shape of a Tootsie Roll, where Mary Jane's were like actually flat, like rectangular pieces shaped slightly different. Very similar though.
You got to call them Bit-O-Honey though.
Yeah. And then I have Atomic Fireballs. Do you remember those? They still
Those I do
make
kinda
them,
remember.
but they're delicious. And then Hubba Bubba bubblegum. We had really good bubblegum when we were kids. I'm sure like it was full of toxins and is terrible for you and why they don't make it anymore, but it was really good. So many flavors. And then lemon heads. Oh, I still love a good lemon head.
I don't think necessarily toxins, but like 110% sugar. Somehow.
Can you do 110% sugar?
I think they did it.
Okay.
I think that's what was great about our childhood.
Oh.
You know, all those kind of candies you have though.
Yeah.
We used to be able to get at Mr. Bulky's.
I remember Mr. Bulky's
So-
in the mall.
Even our kids probably
Yeah.
don't remember it. They used to have this store in the mall that was
Yes.
just bins. It was like straight out of a movie.
It was.
Just bins of candy you would literally scoop out into a bag, put it on a scale, take it home, and just get sugar buzzed.
Do you know what I remember most about Mr. Bulky's? It was your 20th birthday, not long after we had met, like maybe 6 or 7 weeks. And Julie and I rode the bus to the mall because we didn't have cars available on campus as freshmen at Michigan State. You couldn't have a car. And we rode the bus to the mall and bought you candy and I think a balloon from Mr. Bulky's because they also did helium balloons for your birthday.
I kind of remember that now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was still there when Zach was a baby because I remember a lot of times, especially when the weather was crappy, we would just go to the mall in his stroller and walk around and I would go buy him a balloon and he would be so happy in his stroller with a balloon, like wandering around the mall for a couple hours.
Malls were still big then.
They
We were
were.
still a little pre.
Have lunch
Internet
at the
shopping.
food court, hang out,
Yeah.
let the kids run around. It was great.
They were like fun, happening places just to see people and hang out and walk around.
Yeah. It's crazy what a $3 helium balloon does for a toddler in a stroller, though. Game changer.
It's true. I
Pro
do remember
tip.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs didn't like it.
No, the
But
dogs
he
didn't
loved
like
them.
it. Yes.
So, are we good on the Halloween
Yeah.
stuff there?
Yeah.
I hesitate to do this, but here's our very quick political moment. Just had an election
We did.
between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is your winner. Jody, did you vote?
I voted.
I voted also.
Great.
End of our political segment.
I love that. Well done.
That was plenty.
Well done.
So recurring segment.
Yes.
Anything make you laugh, smile, cry this week?
Well, I think the thing that I pulled out this week was a Miles moment, as you might remember, um, which is very appropriate because the name of our podcast is Becoming Chicken Pop, right? So we talk a lot about Miles and future grandchildren. You will definitely be included in this as well. But so the first Thursday of every month, I pick Miles up from daycare. Shelby is their teacher representative in their PTO in the school district she teaches in. So that's on the first Thursday of every month. I get to pick Miles up. So pick Miles up and we're driving in the car and having our conversation. And I just love the way that his brain works and the way that he communicates these days. So, we spent a lot of time talking about all the things that we see in the sky and coming up with everything that you might see in the sky. And then he wanted to play Spooky Spiders Everywhere, one of his favorite Halloween songs. The kid loves Halloween, like pumpkins and just everything, Anyway, and I was like, okay, well, listen to Spooky Spiders Everywhere. And then how about we listen to a Christmas song? Yes, Christmas, because it's not Halloween anymore, chick. Nope, it's not Halloween anymore, Miles. So we listened to Spooky Spiders Everywhere, and then we listened to Jingle Bells, 3 different versions of it. And he said to me, let's talk about Christmas. I said, okay, let's talk about Christmas. And so I said, do you know whose birthday we celebrate when it's Christmas time? And he said, Angela. Oh, well, I was thinking more about Jesus. And so we had this conversation about how we celebrate Jesus' birthday at Christmas time and all the other fun traditions at Christmas time. And then we came back to our house for a little while, and there were 2 or 3 other points during the course of this, 3 hours that we spent with him Thursday, where he just stopped what he was doing, sat down, looked at me and said, let's talk about Christmas. So anyway, that was my smile moment for the week. I love his brain. Like, oh, okay. I know Christmas is coming. I know Halloween's over. Let's talk about it. Like, how do I need to prepare myself? Just anyway, adorableness.
Love that kid. Well, no surprise. Also, one of my smile moments came from Miles.
Mm.
When I'm doing work around the backyard or whatever, there'll be oddly enough, a little salamander or a snake, but especially frogs. And Miles loves the ribbits.
Yes.
So I found a frog down in one of the holes where the ladder post goes around the pool, just hanging out in there. But it was like a super bright green, big old eyeballs on it and stuff. So I zoomed in with a video on it and I shot it off to Miles. So Shelby started saying that he loved it and wanted to watch it again, And then as they were driving the car, he said, I have a good idea. I go to Chicken Pops to check out the frog.
Yeah.
But just picturing the way he said that and that he said it just made me smile.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. But I had another little bonus one here.
Yeah.
Jody, I thought of you this week.
Oh, boy.
I was reading something and I thought specifically of you.
I'm going to prepare myself for this. Okay.
Okay. Let me read this to you. If the pool shield is 30 feet long and the pool is 28 feet long, the difference of 2 feet becomes 1 at each end. If the pool shield is 14 feet 2 inches wide and the pool is 12 feet wide, locate the chalk line half of the 2 foot 2 inch difference of 1 foot 1 inch from the side of the pool.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue this episode.
Wait, there's more. Locate one corner where 2 chalk lines cross. Starting at this crossing point, measure 16 inches towards the end of both lines and mark these positions. I know you love that math.
No, you can call the boys to help you with that. I want no part of it.
Well, doesn't it make you glad that I thought of you?
Yes.
As I was reading that nonsense?
And I'm glad that I didn't have to help you with that when you installed the new pool cover. Thank you.
As we often do on this podcast related to our marriage and our history, we come up with little communication moments. And there's been a few that we've hit on that we remember that we've had to get over.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think one that came up as we were just talking about it, and you know what? Again, these are things that we probably couldn't have discussed
Yeah.
like casually
Yeah.
15 years ago, 20 years
Yeah.
ago. They would have been more of a hot point.
It would have been emotionally charged.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
now looking back on it, we realize we got over it. So now we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So one of the things is I might not tell you things in the past that are kind of going on in my brain because I didn't necessarily want you to jump into fix mode,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of your default. It's what you do.
It's what I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we really talked about that, but we figured it out.
Right.
We must have talked about it at one point, but it probably was accompanied with crying and frustration.
Yeah. Oh, definitely
Way back.
frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think, I've definitely, I think for both of us, I think it goes both ways. There's some times where I just need to vent and say things out loud where someone is in a listening position where I don't really need your feedback or I don't need you to fix it. I don't want you to fix it. Sometimes I don't even want you to tell me what you think. I just need to say it out loud, And
well, fortunately for you, I was pretty good at that part.
Yes, but it's but not everybody is, right? And so it's trying to figure out like, okay, is this one of those moments where you just need to talk or you just need to vent and have somebody listen, or do you actually want me to chime in and give you some suggestions? So here's the pro tip. Ask for what it is you need and want.
Mm-hmm.
Get over yourself and the uncomfortableness that you might feel in the moment, the emotion, the whatever it is, and be really clear. I have a lot going on in my brain, and if you could just listen to me for a few minutes and let me say these things out loud, it's the way that I process information. So for me, part of what I need to do when I'm really caught up in my head is I actually need to say the words out loud. That's part of my process in how I think through things and deal with it. For you, it's much more of an internal process, right? So for you, you had to learn to say, like, everything's okay. I'm not mad at you. This isn't about you. I'm just like, I need some time to sort through this, right? So I think that's the pro tip is like, just communicate whatever it is. Like, I need some processing time. I need to say this out loud. I really need your input here. I
think both of us had come to the point, and more importantly for you, where you'd actually say, do you want to know what I think about this?
Yeah.
And I will honestly just say, I don't right now.
Yeah. And I'm totally okay with that.
But you need to know that.
Right.
Otherwise, you go into fix mode.
I do. Yes.
Really do.
Yeah.
And on top of that, as a guy that doesn't want to try and talk over somebody,
mm-hmm.
Part of your fixing process was kind of jumping into this attack mode at whatever I was facing,
mm-hmm.
but it felt like you were yelling at me.
Yes.
Because you were just getting it out there, and
yeah.
I felt really defensive about it.
Yes. It wasn't aimed at you.
It was aimed at the problem, but it felt like it was aimed at me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to like, I go into like this protective mode. So if there's something that you don't feel good about or you're anxious about, like, yes, I want to fix that so you feel good again. And so I can get hyper, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but like, okay, well, let me tell you, this is what needs to happen and how. And I can totally see how that comes across as like the attack mode that, even though the emotion that I'm expressing isn't targeted at you, you're absorbing it and it has an impact.
But it was best to get that out of the way as early as we could.
Yes.
Probably didn't get it as early as we should have.
Yeah.
But earlier the better, because that could crop up with boys.
Absolutely.
And Zach is like me, where he would shut down.
Yep.
Toby was more, he would snap back.
Yeah.
And he would argue and question.
Yeah.
And then you either loved it or didn't know how to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So
It was a little both.
it informed you on how to approach each boy, I think.
Yeah.
And really anyone.
Yeah.
But we're talking about our close little family here.
Yeah.
That
For sure.
give and take is just really needed.
Yep. So anyway, the pro tip takeaway, when it comes to communication, it's really important to communicate your needs around communication. I need you to listen. I don't want your input. Or I need you to help me think this through and present some different viewpoints, like what is it that you need from difficult conversations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you just used my favorite transition these days. Anyway. It's my moving
We
on.
all have our things.
Anyway.
All right, so we talked about Thanksgiving. And I know last episode we talked about some of our holiday traditions, but in honor of Thanksgiving, I just wanted to take a few minutes in this episode and just talk about the idea of Thanksgiving. And, Thanksgiving has kind of become this controversial holiday. Anyway, I'm focused around the idea of like actual Thanksgiving, the things that you're grateful for, that you're thankful for in your life, like is a day of remembrance and celebration of all the good things.
Should stand on its own, regardless of the history.
Exactly. Yes, that is my perspective on Thanksgiving, and why I still call it Thanksgiving, because I think it is one of those days. And I think with this podcast, and one of our kind of goals in life is to leave legacy of Thanksgiving. We want our kids to know, and our grandkids and the future generations, all the things that we have to be thankful for in our lives, and the impact that those things had on us and our family, and how it's shaping generations. And it's not just things that we're thankful for this week, but there's definitely an impact of different moments in life that impact not just us, but through the generations, the idea of generational legacy. So, are you game to talk about Thanksgiving?
Let's do it.
All right. So, a couple questions for you. Tell me one or two simple things from day-to-day life that you feel thankful for, that you appreciate the most these days. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
A little bit. And I don't want to sound cliche here, but it's the things everyone is thankful for. If they appreciate them as their family.
Yeah.
I appreciate what we get to do every day for a living. I'm grateful for just the way we've been taken care of and the way we've discussed God moments. Just looking back at the way things have led to where we are now, and led through things.
Yeah.
And having those experiences that, good and bad, as the saying goes, will pass. Just keeping that in mind from day to day. As tough things happen, it's going to be okay. It's going to get over.
Yeah.
And that's not really the concrete, my wife, my kids, my family. It's the experience of all that together and how it's come together and been handled, and we've been taken care of.
I love that. I think
How about you?
The thing that stands out to me today is sunshine. And it is sunny today, so it's easy to say that. But I remember I was laying in bed this morning and just having a lazy Saturday, and I was reading, and you got up and you opened the curtains, and which looks out over our backyard, and there's sunlight streaming over the trees, and it was just this beautiful moment.
So, Miles, what would you say the weather report is today?
Tunny.
That's one he's going to grow out of, and we're going to keep doing it forever.
Yep, for sure. But, that is a simple thing that it makes me so happy when I see beautiful sunny days like this. It's one of those things that it's really easy to overlook, and I don't know. I recognize the need to just slow down and take in those simple things and be thankful for them because they really do. Those little things add up to be really big things. Yeah.
And this isn't a joke, but it'll sound like it. As a Midwesterner, it's dark at 5 o'clock now.
It is.
After the time change.
Yeah.
So every little bit of sun we get right now is gold.
I mean, the fact that there's not snow on the ground in November and there's still leaves on some of the trees, we'll take it for sure. So when you think about our family and its structure right now, what are you most thankful for specifically around our family unit?
I think we're very fortunate that just our kids are close by.
Yeah.
Just strictly geography.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that. Even if it's an hour or 2 hours away or across the country.
Yeah.
You just don't get to see them as much. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that we get to see our kids once, twice, 3 times a week, depending on the week.
Yeah.
So that's just a very, very simple one.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, I definitely agree with all of that 100%. And I think the other thing that I would say that really stands out to me is the fact that everyone likes each other. They get along. They share so many things in common, and that as they're each building their own lives, they wanna continue that connection so that they're building in the same direction, that they will always be connected and kind of carry on the legacy of family and connectedness and togetherness. So
I don't feel like it's a huge effort to get together. We just want to be.
It's just natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like a big event and dinner and plans. And it was just like, oh, hey, can you come
it
over?
Probably has to be dinner.
Can you come over and help me put this TV on the wall that turns into an all afternoon kind of thing and shared stories and funny moments? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think, do you have any, I don't know, advice for anybody that's, struggling, or maybe you're early on in your life or your marriage, on how to express Thanksgiving or build a culture of Thanksgiving?
Culture of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. I know it's a big concept.
Well, clearly that means bringing it outside of the day.
Right.
I mean, it's not just a one-day thing. There's little bits of certain verses in the Bible and stuff that I think we both live by, and one is, rejoice evermore, and in everything give thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes right out and says those are the will of God,
Mm-hmm.
which people struggle with so much, but there's very concrete things that are the will of God, So let's do it. Let's do it every day. Let's remember, give thanks. And I don't know if this is kind of what you're getting at, but it's been a recurring theme to me over last 6 months. I don't know. Hopefully more than that, but it just seems to keep coming up in my brain, is the whole perspective moments. And I think I touched on one with, rough days at work, and it's kind of a sad/funny one that I had a few weeks ago that I brought up to you. I was trying to put some leftovers in the fridge in our garage, in the garage-erator.
Yeah.
And I remember saying out loud, there's no room in here for this food. And it just hit me in the face when I said it. It's like, I can't believe I just said that about our second refrigerator is too full. And I was, almost complaining. I told you, if I ever say that again, literally slap me in the back of the head. I mean, that was just one of those.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny at the time, but it made me stop and really think, man, we should really make sure we're getting stuff to the food bank and dropping stuff off at our church's food drive. And that's very simple things just to remember, and acts of thankfulness, I think.
Yeah. And I'm thinking too, I think you brought up a good point about, The idea of thankfulness sometimes is, well, let me step back. So I agree with you. Like, there's definitely thankful or things to be thankful for, like in the moment, like specific things that happened today. But it's looking at like, what are the compounded things over the course of a lifetime that we have to be thankful for, right? Like, we are not in the position we are today because of one specific inciting incident to be thankful for, right? It is a whole series of things. And not all of them were pleasant. Not everything that we've experienced in life has been like this good and great moment that we're celebrating. It's the journey, I think, and it's hard sometimes to look at those hard moments and to look back at them and to be thankful for them. And yet, if you're really being honest, you have to be thankful for those hard moments, because without those hard moments, you wouldn't have learned the lessons that you needed to get through and get to the point where you are today. Like, every hard moment in life has its lessons and impacts your life that have a compounding interest.
I think that's what I was touching on earlier. Even if it's not one specific thing you learned, for me, it's the group of things we can look back on that just not like took care of themselves, but in time were in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
And we didn't have to worry about them anymore.
Yeah. I love that. So a couple things I jotted down around the idea of thankfulness and creating a legacy of thankfulness, just kind of some things to keep in mind as you're striving toward this that are good reminders for me. So, it's the idea of embracing gratitude is kind of a daily thing, right? It's one of those simple things. What do I have to be grateful for today? That's a reflection moment. It's a reminder for everyone, and I need this reminder. It's to find joy in the small, everyday things. The fact that it's sunny today. Well, that should be enough to keep me smiling all day, even if nothing else does. The idea of giving back, giving to others, like being generous in spirit, recognizing that joy isn't from the things around us, right? I think that faith helps to align things, right? To bring them into the proper focus. And I think for me, one of the biggest things, it's that my focus isn't about things. It isn't about details. It's about people. It's about purpose. It's about shared experiences. And so when I focus on those things, it just generates those feelings of gratitude and thanksgiving.
As you were talking through those, I actually remembered last night thinking about this, and like some very concrete thankful moments I was having as I was outside doing my star watch before I came into bed.
Yeah.
Was like, it hit me. I'm grateful for the family I was born into. I'm grateful for the parents and the siblings that I was born into. I'm grateful for the country where I was born. I'm grateful for the part of the country I was born in. I'm grateful for the, just the social advantages I was born into and got to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So many things that you just don't usually think about from day to day.
Yeah.
But probably should. And I was just very grateful about those at the time.
I love that. It's so interesting when you just slow down and spend a few minutes reflecting. And it's not even that you have to guide that reflection, right? It's like, okay, just let things come naturally, right? And the things that pop up in your brain. I love that. And the other thing I think that I just is my one of my biggest recommendations to people, and I think we talk about this a little bit in different ways on this podcast, is if there is someone that you are feeling especially thankful for, grateful for, tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody pops into your brain and you're thinking about them, or you have a specific memory, or you're feeling, all warm, like just shoot them a text. It's so easy. Like, stop what you're doing, take the 30 seconds and just tell the people that you love them and that you appreciate them and that you're thankful for them or the situation or whatever it is that come to your mind. But take the 30 seconds it takes to acknowledge that.
It'll make them feel better. It'll make you feel better. And especially if you don't expect some response.
Yes.
I try to shoot stuff to my boys every now and then like that. I know not to expect a response, but
yeah,
I know they've seen it.
Yep.
I know I've told them what I wanted to tell them.
Yeah.
Never do it with the expectation of some type of return.
Yeah.
That just always makes it easier.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we wrap up Thanksgiving, is there any specific Thanksgiving memory that comes to mind? I have one, but I don't know if you have a specific Thanksgiving memory.
I don't. I think I told you this in a previous episode where they kind of all run together. It's sort of a stressful time the day before.
Yeah.
I sort of have a memory of loving it at one point because Pete would come back home.
Uh-huh.
And he was out of the house by the time he was 18, I think.
Yeah.
So as a little brother who was 10 years younger, 8 years old, you love it when your family, and especially your big brother,
right,
comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, Kath too, but Kath was there.
Yeah.
So when we all got together and things seemed cordial,
mm-hmm.
I remember that being big for me.
Yeah.
That everyone was back together. And you know what? It's really weird. I remember Kath saying at one point, you kind of learn young what the meaning of Thanksgiving is. It's a really weird moment that just popped into my brain, but that was kind of it about Thanksgiving with me. None of the food or the time or moments. It was just the getting together part.
Mm-hmm. So the one that stands out, it was such a weird Thanksgiving, and I think that's why it sticks out. So the boys were young, elementary school age. Toby was maybe kindergarten, first grade. So Zach would have been like fourth grade, maybe. I had my wisdom teeth pulled. I had oral surgery to dig out my wisdom teeth the day before Thanksgiving. And I scheduled it that way so I would have like a long day, a weekend to recover because I was doing in-home daycare at the time. And so I had my wisdom teeth out the day before Thanksgiving, and which meant that I didn't have to be responsible for the whole Thanksgiving meal, which was a win in my book. I was responsible for the mashed potatoes because I could eat the mashed potatoes. And it turned out to be, I took on a lot more of the meal. But anyway, the other thing that I remember about that was that Friday, Hazlitt, the school district that we lived in, their football team had made it to the state finals. And we drove to Ford Field, and Ford Field had only been open for like a year. The Lions had just opened that facility, and we went and we saw Hazlitt play in the state finals. The boys were super excited. It was their first time in a really big stadium like that. And
you sure it wasn't the Silverdome?
No, this was at Ford Field.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, I remember like it was kind of this weekend of eating stuffing and mashed potatoes. And on our way home from Ford Field, we stopped at Taco Bell because I could get beans and cheese, and that was about all I could eat at the time. But anyway, it was one of those really weird Thanksgivings, but I don't know, that's one that stuck out in my mind, like being thankful, like, all right, we still had Thanksgiving. It wasn't like the traditional normal one, and yet, we definitely created some memories. Yeah.
And also, you mentioned beans and cheese.
Yeah.
Zach was basically formed on beans and cheese.
It's true.
Bean burritos.
Taco
That
Bell
was like
bean
your big
burritos. It was my
pregnancy thing.
pregnancy craving with Zach.
Mhm.
Yep. McDonald's Coke and Taco Bell bean burritos. Yep.
Toby was more ice cream. I enjoyed that one.
Toby was Bear Claw ice cream.
Hmm.
Chocolate with caramel and cashews. It was delightful. Yep.
Didn't we have right there in Hazlitt?
Yeah.
Was that before Subway?
Yes.
Or was it next to it?
No, it was next to it. It was where China Express is now. There was an ice cream place
Subway-
in there for a while.
Subway and ice cream.
Yep.
Was
And then
quite a
that
date
ice
night.
cream place became McDonald's for a little while.
Mm.
Do you remember? They put in a little tiny McDonald's right there. It only lasted a year or so. But
At the weird little corner.
and now Zach's office is right next to there.
Hazlitt is a big part of our history, for
Absolutely.
sure. Another little segment we have here. What are you listening to, watching, reading? Anything.
Oh, you want me to answer first?
Oh, we're going to do mine first because it was quick, I think.
Okay.
Then we can jump into yours.
Sure.
For mine, for me, around the fire, working outside, I hit my Switchfoot all-encompassing playlist that I have going, but specifically their most recent album, Interrobang, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of liked when it came out. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of a weird one with their producer, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but
Mm-hmm.
listening to it again over and over this week and was really enjoying it. So that's my listen.
Nice.
I don't really have a new read. So how about you?
One of the things that I've been listening to, I think, on repeat over the last week or so, and not just listening, but also like watching different reels of different groups of people, is The Goodness of God by CeCe Winans. And so it's such a powerful song. And I remember I was driving last Saturday. Shelby and I went to Hobby Lobby and we were looking at Christmas decor. And the song came on the radio and we were talking about it. And then, I've seen so many reels of little kids singing this song, or church choirs, or there was one of this, probably 85-year-old man sitting in his kitchen and his granddaughter recorded him singing the chorus of this song. And it's a beautiful song. And so that's the one that it just keeps coming up in my feed because I watch every single thing related to it. So I keep getting more and more of it. So
You do hit the YouTube hard when something piques your interest.
I absolutely do. Yeah, for sure. And I think both of us. So usually this time of year, we rewatch the entire Harry Potter movie series.
Switching gears from CeCe Winans.
Yes, let's jump to Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but over the last month, we've watched the entire Harry Potter movie series again, which, you know what? I was watching, I'm trying to remember which movie it was. I think it was Order of the Phoenix? And there was something in that movie and my brain was like, this is not the way that it happened in the book. So I think I'm actually going to reread the books again. I'm going to start that. I have a series I'm on the last book of right now. And then there's another book that'll be the third installment of a series that's dropping in the next week. So I'll probably read that. And then I'll pick up Harry Potter in the month of December and kind of read through those again. Because it's been a few years since I've read through them.
And then always I have to bring up they can do everything and anything they want with magic except have electricity and fly. I'm not buying it.
Well, some of them can fly. And they have brooms.
A broom?
You've seen the movies.
I expect more from magical people.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, it is kind of a thing that we do every year now, and
yeah.
And more, it's like we hit the little button on the Apple TV remote and we're like, oh no, we're not making it to the end of this one.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of halfsies.
Yeah.
Because we have to go to bed.
We'll pick this up tomorrow.
Yep.
Yep. We still stay up later than our kids, though.
That's true. Our kids are like 70-year-old people.
They have those early bedtimes.
It's weird. They eat like old people. They go to bed like old people.
But to be fair, they get up much earlier in the morning than we do.
Yeah.
They got to drive to work.
They talk like old people too sometimes.
It's true.
I mean, we knew that was coming with Toby because
Toby's the old
he's
soul.
been 70 since he was 17.
Yeah.
But Zach has flowed right into that get off my
Absolutely.
lawn.
Get
old
off my
man
lawn. Uh-huh.
Yep.
He totally has. All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope that you take a few minutes and you really reflect on those moments in your life that have brought you to where you are today and that you can look back and be thankful. We are hopefully enjoying some sunshine and warm weather in Cancun, Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
Thanks for picking me, Jody.
Thanks for picking me. I'm thankful for you. Future fam, in case you listen to this someday and we've never met,
We love you.